Morning has broken in Banda Aceh. As you can see, the ground's wet from a night's fall of fairly heavy rain. It sounded like it was coming down quite hard outside, but you know, it seems to rain in the morning and the evening. So if it rains only when you're asleep, it's okay, right? So it's military, you're not going to get involved with those guys. What I'm searching for now, what I've been told, is the banging bit of mie Aceh, yeah? Aceh noodles. They told me a certain shop that I must go to, but obviously finding it is going to be a bit of a challenge. But I got some kind of rudimentary directions. Well, I got very detailed directions actually, but my interpretation is only rudimentary. Mas, aku mau pergi Raja Lee. Lurus ya? Makasih ya. Okay. Belok kanan. Okay, thank you. Okay, right, I'm getting closer. Belok kiri. Kiri, kanan. I'll find it. I don't know if I'm turning right or if I'm turning left. But what's new there? It's going to be a good one. Traditional Aceh food. Right, I found it. It wasn't too bad actually. I had to go around and up and down and back and like this a few times. But the reassuring part of it all is like everybody in the town seems to know where it is. All of them. Everybody knows where it is. So this is it. Me Raj Ali. Yeah, Raz Ali we might say in English. And apparently they're going to do the best mie Aceh in here. So, but it's not open now. Who would have thought, eh? It opens at 11 o'clock. So I'm going to have to come back for dinner, I think. Which means breakfast is going to be makan nasi, I think, as is tradition. Just if you do come to the area of Aceh, which, you know, on first glance, I would recommend. But like I say, I'm going to talk a bit more about some of the dark history later. Or perhaps I've already spoken about it. Depends how I edit this video, really. Anyway, you know what I mean. Indonesia is really yin-yang, man. But anyway, this place seems cool to me. That's Raz Ali. Opposite this Chinese building, the Hindu building, the Nazi building, Buddhist is the word I'm looking for. Sorry. Yeah, opposite Kampong Laksana. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be back later. Nanti ya. So, in lieu of you know, the old special me, I think it's gonna have to be the old favourite. Now this may not look like breakfast food to you, but I assure you it very much does to me. Alright, it's fish curry, rice, sambal, perkedel for me this morning. You know, some of you will think, how can you eat that for breakfast? Who eats rice for breakfast? Let me tell you, about 220 million people eat rice for breakfast in this country. Indonesians have a saying, tidak makan nasi, tidak makan. It means if you ain't eating rice, you ain't eating. So yeah, you know me, you might have observed normally in the morning I really fancy a baguette. When I'm in this country, I don't know what it is, my mind just switches to rice, chili, curry sauce, and that's all I need. And the old faithful perkedel. Now you see, compare this to the perkedel of last night. This is a big fat one. The last one was little small ones. I don't know which I prefer actually, but it's all about the flavour. Let's crack into that first one. See what we feel of that. Makasih, back. Oh yeah, it's a good one. Oh, plenty of flavour in that. I think there's even a little bit of fish in that, is there? Mm. Some kind of seafood or something like that. Bapak, perkedel ini ada ikan di dalam?
Tidak ada ini.
Tidak ada. What's this one? May I? You explain?
Oh yes, fine.
This one is what? This bit.
I will ask.
It's not some fish or seafood or something?
Oh, I will ask.
Oh, okay. The boss, yeah? So we get a little brief explanation of perkedel here.
No, there's no fish. Just
No?
some spice.
Just some kind of spice, is it? Oh, maybe it was ginger or something. A slice of the ginger root. I don't know. Anyway, it's delicious. Whatever's inside it, absolute delicious. And the curry sauce as well. You can see how good that is, can't you?
But usually we put in something else.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Mm. Sometimes I have fish, right? Perkedel. Some people put inside. Beans. Beef. Oh, put beef inside sometimes, do they? Oh, that's interesting. Mm. That's a good curry sauce as well. A little bit sour, the curry sauce. Maybe got some lime in that or something, I think. Lime-based curry. Oh, it's lovely though. Ini berapa harga, Pak?
This is with fish.
Mm.
Price is
15.
And, plus berbeda 5,000.
Okay.
Totally
20. So, because I know Indonesian people, right, they don't eat too much, right? They just have normally the 15,000 one, right? Most people, as I say, Indonesians, normal price, they're just going to have the rice, the chili and vegetable and one item, right? And it's going to be about 15,000. I add on the perkedel, so this is 20,000. That's still like £1 in England at the moment. So, fantastic value. So delicious. Right. Not expensive. Not expensive for locals either, right? Locals can afford to do this if they can find some money. This is okay. This is what I mean. This is what I mean about the economy in this part of the world. They can't make money like we make money in England, but also they don't need to as much, you know? If they can find small money, they can live. Which of course we can't do that in the West. We have to find big money or we can't live. So it's not all bad being poor, right? Sometimes I think, you know, that this country is a perfect example of people that are very poor but very happy.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's why I love it. Life is simple, absolutely. Okay, selamat makan aku. Oh, is that? No? Oh. Masjid di mana?
Hah?
Masjid.
Masjid.
This
Ya.
belok kiri ya?
Ya.
Kiri. Oh, okay, maaf ya. Oh, it's military base, I think. Yeah. Right, well that's a good example for you. That is a good example for you of, you know, the main problem in this part of the world. Is the military presence, you know. It is a police state, and here in Aceh, obviously it's Sharia law. So this morning there were like loads and loads of police all out in the street, going in hotels, restaurants, things like that. So I think what they're doing is just checking that you know, nobody's breaking any laws. You know, and to us, a lot of these will be kind of pointless laws, you know. I.e., is there an unmarried couple staying together in a hotel? You know, are the women wearing a jilbab but there's, you know, ankles covered for ridiculous things like this? Now, of course, Sharia law doesn't apply if you're not Muslim, you know. So it's not that bad, you know. It's not as bad as it seems. It's not like they're forcing it on anyone who doesn't already comply with that. Having said that, will it get to that stage? Very possibly yes. So again, it's not all good, you know. It's far from ideal. Yes, I'm starting to get persistently offered Becak rides now, which I am looking for today, but I will be able to find of my own accord. So, you know, the minor irritations are still prevalent. But I don't know, they're just nicer here, man. Just it's not as annoying because they're so happy. Yeah, but anyway, the old police presence this morning was a bit dodgy. I didn't really feel comfortable with that. I mean, again, if you're not, you know, if you're not a Muslim, you don't really have to abide by these things. Obviously, you know, dressing appropriately when you're in the mosque, you know, you can't meet local girls, sort of thing, you know, like these things. You can't drink your beer in public. You probably get away with it inside your hotel. Well, you definitely would get away with it inside your hotel. And moreover, they wouldn't care. It wouldn't actually offend them, you know. It's very, a lot of the choice element still remains, you know. The choice element still remains. Yeah, but anyway, military presence, just from an ideological point of view, I don't agree with it, you know. It does offend me. But again, that is a separate issue. There's nothing to do with Islam. Alright, they are enforcing Islamic law around here, but it's just a form of control. It's just a system of control. Because the ironic thing, you know, all these police, like there were fucking van loads of them. And I don't get up all in their face with the camera and all that, because I want to keep this camera and complete this trip with this camera, you know. It's alright if you're bloody Stacey Doolan or whatever, you go in with all the BBC's equipment, they've made phone calls, pre-arranged everything, and you make it look like, you know, you're going in there on the bounce, so to speak. Fine, you can do that sort of thing. I am actually here on the bounce, you know. I'm entirely independent, so I'm sorry, I'm not gonna fucking stick my camera in a police officer's face while they're busy enforcing kind of controlling ideology, because they could control me quite easily, and that's the end of this show. So yes, but anyway, it's sinister, I'll be honest. It is sinister, the level of police control, and you know, some of the biggest corruption is evident among the police force, you know. If you go to Jakarta, you'll wonder exactly what the police are doing there, apart from taking bribes. So anyway, that's all the negative side, you know, and I don't wish to focus on it, but I will be referring to it frequently because it is one of the fascinating elements of this country. I don't get how people can be so beautiful and so kind and so nice with the mass genocide and mass scale corruption that goes on here, you know, that has gone on and is going on. It is so confusing, but like wonderfully confusing. I don't know, man. I love this country. So we're entering another textile area here. You know, holds no interest for me other than some kind of visual feast. You know, just walking down this kind of street is pretty cool. And again, you know, just lovely to kind of interact with people. A little nod and a wink, smile, hello mister. You know, you get it all day long down in this kind of place. And then you can see it's all the old Islamic clothing that they're doing here. Because obviously, you know, the women have to dress like that by law, which again is something that, you know, an ideal of prescriptivism that I cannot subscribe to. You know, and that is a problem, you know, like basically, you know, it is, they practice Sharia law in this area. Now I don't know a lot about it, how it really works, but you know, so the main sort of repercussions for the likes of you or I is that we can't drink beer in public. They don't sell it anywhere, only in like hotels and things, Chinese owned hotels or something, you buy beer. But you wouldn't be able to like date a non-Muslim here, walk down the street holding their hands. Well, you wouldn't be able to date a Muslim, I'm sorry, if you're non-Muslim, and vice versa. So, you know, I don't like that. I don't, you know, that's contrary to freedom, you know, but that is kind of how they're living, and it's kind of how they were living anyway before the implementation of Sharia law. But now it just means that the police can actually act on that. So, but you know, what I would really like you to think about is that these are all like cultural values being implemented, yeah, and it's not actually really having many repercussions on certainly myself and basically the public at large. There's almost no consequences, particularly in a staunchly Islamic area like this. Almost like nothing has changed, you know. And I've asked the local to explain this to me. That's pretty much the gist of it. I asked him, do they chop people's hands off? He says no, not yet, but maybe in the future it will escalate to that. The idea is if that person deserves it, and you know, judging by the way people speak in England, I think most of you would like that, you know, if you could get away with it, you know, to be able to punish people physically for certain crimes. And so then again, it's no real different from the way that you think, you know, most of you, a lot of you. But the point really is, do you get the impression that anyone like doesn't want me here, or that I am unwelcome in this place, that by virtue of my faith or the way that I'm dressed, that they want to kill me or something like that? I mean, is that coming across to you? Because I'm walking down the street and it's not coming across to me at all, you know? It feels pretty safe here. In fact, it feels safer than where I come from, because no one here is going to try and steal from me, I think, and no one here is going to start a fight with me because, you know, I looked at them a bit too long or in the wrong way. You know, no one here is going to start a fight with me for looking at their bird or spilling their drink. Yeah, I mean, what drink could I spill? Because you can't buy a beer here, yeah? And you can't buy a beer here, hence the fact that no one here wants to hang around fighting, you know, or just because they're bored, you know, because they've come out of the club and they haven't pulled a bird and their testosterone's raging. It's just not happening in this part of the world, and you know, that is to a great extent, that is a consequence of Islam, you know. I promise you, it's making people better. more than it's making people worse. I'm not saying bad things are not happening, and you know, but this is the country with the largest Islamic population in the world, and the places where the bad stuff is happening are, you know, countries in the Middle East and things like that, and it's kind of like proves the point that it's not the religion itself, it's some other ideology that is teaching the negativity. Having said that, there is negativity around Islam in this country, and as I say, I don't like the enforcement of like dress code, but that's been self-imposed by these women for a long time before it was actual, you know, statute. So it's their choice for the most part, you know. I have heard horror stories actually about this place, about like girls, you know, being persecuted, maybe even lashed, I'm not sure, but certainly being persecuted for fraternising with the opposite sex when they're not married. And you know, so bad stuff does happen here, you know. There's certainly been, you know, terrorist insurgencies, or shall I say separatist insurgencies throughout years, but you know, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. This mosque, in fact, behind me, I'm not sure how to say it, Raya Baturahaman. Masjid Raya Baturahaman. Yeah, basically this was razed to the ground by the Dutch and subsequently rebuilt by the Dutch to pacify the locals, because they really know how to protest in this country, and historically, as I say, this has been like a stronghold for independence, and there have been battles against the Dutch for many years. There were battles against the Dutch for many years, and like, if you were one of these local people living here, you would support that, wouldn't you? If invaders came into your country, you know, like certain nations are invading certain countries in the Middle East, you know, why can't you fight back against that? Why shouldn't you fight back against that? So don't, you know, you've got to look at things in perspective. You've got to look at the bigger picture. But anyway, they're like almost what I would call fascist groups. There's a group I know operating in Jakarta called FPE, FPI. Yeah, it's kind of the Islamic Front or something. And they try and enforce, you know, certain things on other cultures. They're involved, they've been allegedly linked to like attacks on churches and things like that. So there's a dark side to everything, and it's not perfect here. And when I hopefully speak to someone more equipped to speak about the subject, I'll also explain a little bit about the mass genocide that's gone on in this country. So, is that circumlocution? Is that a tautology to say mass genocide? I think it might be. Anyway, guys, I hope you can kind of understand what I mean, because again, I don't write a script for this shit. It ain't fucking written, I'm just spitting, freestyle all the while, you know the score. I just saw a sexy fucking female police officer, man. You know, there is equality pretty much for women under Islam. And no, it don't look like that in the West, and I used to believe that it was not the case. Let's put it this way: Islam brought greater equality to women than they had before in areas like the Middle East. Muhammad's missus, one of them anyway, was like a fantastic accountant or something like that, and she taught him all about business and things like that. I don't know, ask a Muslim, you know, someone who knows about the hadith and all that. They'll tell you a bit more about Muhammad and his family life. And hello, sir. But believe it or not, I mean, this is one thing that I know, right? The old 4 wives thing, right? A Muslim can have 4 wives. Before Islam, they could have as many as they wanted. I don't know if that's, maybe there was a limit of 8 or 10 or something. I don't know, but put it this way, the 4 wives is a limit imposed by Islam. It's a reduction from what used to be. Now a lot of you didn't know that, did you? You're like thinking, oh, it's a misogynist thing. You know, look, all men would love to have 4 birds on the go if they could get away with it, you know? And, you know, in certain fiercely patriarchal communities, they can get away with it. And rightly or wrongly, that is what goes on. And the Islamic law basically insisted on a bit more equality, put a limit on 4, and that limit applies, right, only if you can treat each wife equally, treat each wife fairly. Yeah, you're only allowed 4 wives if you can treat each one of them the same as well as each other. And you know, it's still the concept of dowry still exists in Islam, which means you've got to like provide for your missus. You've got to give her a gift. You've got to, you know, make sure that she is, you know, has sufficient means to survive, and particularly in the event that you're gonna want to move away or something like that. So yeah, it's it might not seem that way, but it actually did a lot for women, this movement. And again, I'm not saying it's perfect, I'm not saying it's left women in an ideal situation, but it's okay, you know, it's not as bad as what you think it is. There's just so many myths. All I'm trying to do, right, is just explode a few of the myths, like Sharia law is going to be dangerous for people if it's implemented on a wide scale, because, you know, the main thing about that is it's not going to happen. It's more fucking scaremongering. You know, Tommy Robinson might sit there and tell you there's 100 Sharia law courts in England, but you know, they're people who want to use them and they don't affect anyone else, and there's no way it's going to take over. And right, Islam is spreading, you know, and it's spreading to Western nations because Western governments, you know, allow over immigration because it allows them to keep the economy low, if you understand what I mean. I'm not going to explain these things, but more immigrants means lower wages for longer periods and lower working conditions because they're already better than where those people come from. You get me? Like that's what mass immigration is all about, and that is why governments love it, and they don't give a fuck about how it affects, you know, the indigenous people, i.e. real English people who can't get a job because mate is willing to work for £5 an hour because he's just come off the boat, you know, where he's earned £5 last month, you know, and that's all that matters to them, that's all that matters to the government. So don't be thinking that the spread of Islam is a threat, you know. The spread of Islam is only threatening because it might encourage more equality, you know, because it might encourage more people not to drink alcohol, not to take drugs, you know, not to become involved in the sex industry, yeah? Right, anyway, I've said all this before in loads of videos, and I'm just going to get in this now. This is a bed check. I'm going to negotiate with this gentleman because I want to travel around, okay?